Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Tim here with the TMA Connection, and it's your local podcast that's focusing on people that are making a difference in the lives of others. And man, we have a difference maker here today. Yes, sir. Man, we must go back 4 or 5 years. I don't know. And I've seen you grow with your investing business, and it's impressive. And I really want to pick your brain today. So, without further ado, Brian Valdivia from Beltway Lending.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we get into anything, give everybody just a little bit of a background about who you are.
Absolutely. So 2021, I bought my first rental property. I was working for a hard money lending company, and May of 2021, actually. So we're coming up on the anniversary here. And since then, I've accumulated just over 200 properties, 202. And in July of 22, I parted ways from that lending company and formed Beltway Lending, which caters to investors. That was the goal. Hey, how can I make investors' lives easier? I know what I need, right? Like, how do I make what works for me for everyone else?
Yeah.
And what started with me and Ross as like, hey, we're gonna have like 2 employees and whatever. Now we have 21 employees. We did 172 million in loans last year. It's been a crazy journey. Now we're doing homeowner mortgages, with hard money, all the things.
Everything.
Yep.
Wow. 2021.
That's when we met.
So you just had started your first rental property. It wasn't the one that you bought from our people.
No, we bought that, I think, in August, I want to say. Maybe.
Okay.
That was definitely like in the first 10, maybe number 10.
Wow.
May 5th of 21, we bought our first house, first house in Dundalk.
That's crazy.
Actually, it just went vacant. Ironically, it just went vacant for the first time since then, which is crazy numbers to like analyze.
Yeah.
But about a month ago, we just finished the turnover, and now getting ready to release it, and it's crazy.
So you've done 202, you said.
Yes, sir.
Since 2000. That's nuts, because I just always thought that you've been in this business for a heck of a lot of, a longer time.
Nope. So prior to January of 21, which is when I kind of started with that hard money company, I was a financial analyst for Northrop Grumman, spreadsheet wizard, if you will.
Okay.
To give me an Excel sheet, and I can do some crazy things.
Uh-huh.
But I had my work environment there was a little rough. Like, I was in a basement. I was like no cell service. I had like clearance and all those things, but like, man, it was like a really, really rough work environment.
Yeah.
And that kind of like helped me like really realize like, man, this is not the way.
Right.
This is not the way.
So from 0 to 1, there's a huge, you got to make a jump. You can't wait till you learn everything. You have to make a jump. What did that look like for you, going from nothing to your first property?
So a lot of people suffer from what's called like analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
Like, you sit and look at spreadsheets and documents and things all day, and you just never really pull the trigger, right? I was very fortunate. The job, I was working for a hard money lending company, and what they hired me to do was basically build out a DSCR refinance program for them. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, they already did hard money exceptionally well, and they're like, hey, we need to get our borrowers out.
Yeah.
So I started to do that. So what that did for me was it did a couple of things. One, I was able to see what the exit strategy looked like if I wanted to keep a rental property. I knew the ins and outs of it. And then on the front end, they did hard money, and I understood that because I was selling that for them. But the really valuable piece there in the middle that bridged them was every day my job was to come in, talk to investors, and see if I could help them with hard money or with a DSCR loan. And I take even to this day, take a pretty humble approach. Like, I've learned a lot. Like, some of those people that I first met have become like really, really great friends, and they were mentors in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But talking to them, like hearing, okay, well, they're willing to pay $120 for this house, right? And then, okay, it just appraised for $220, and they're doing a refi, and they're getting all their money back. Mm-hmm. So I was very fortunate that like spreadsheet wizard created a spreadsheet as the appraisals came in and was just tracking like, okay, this neighborhood's appraising for this, if it's 2 bedrooms, if it's 3 bedrooms. And then in May of 21, when this house on Kavanaugh Road in Dundalk popped up for 120 or 125, I knew, I was like, hey, I've seen investors for the last 4 months buy this same deal.
Yeah.
I could do it.
Uh-huh.
And that was how we did it. And it was a little nerve-wracking, right? Like, I actually got the numbers a little wrong. It appraised for less than I thought because I didn't understand above-grade square footage versus, it has 3 bedrooms, but 2 of them are upstairs and one's in the basement. It's very different than 3 upstairs.
Yep.
Fortunately, like, it shook out really good, and I got out of it, and then I bought, we just started to scale from there.
That's awesome. Wow. When you talking about numbers, and since you're so analytical, when you're looking at these deals, whether it's a flip or whether it's a buy and hold, what constitutes a good deal? How are you calculating, to see if it's a good investment?
So in the beginning, it's different. When I was just starting out, it was a little bit different than it is now. It was like insanely aggressive in the beginning. Like everything looked like a good deal to me, and I was making deals happen.
Okay.
I was making them into good deals. I was okay. What do I need to do to get this to be where I need it to be? Right.
Yeah.
Now I've really isolated it down into like pockets of neighborhoods. So I really like Dundalk. Obviously, I have a lot in Dundalk.
Okay.
Essex, but there's a pocket on the east side of Baltimore that has the same layouts. So to answer your question, in the beginning, I was looking at cash flow, and the rates were at that time like 4%. I have 60 mortgages or 62 mortgages that are under 4.25%.
Okay.
So the cash flow model is very different then than it is now when the rates are in the high 6, low 7s or whatever. So I wanted to make back then $500 a month cash flow.
Okay.
And I still aim for that number now, but it's much, much more challenging. So I look at the purchase price, and the first thing I do is add 10% or 10 grand, depending on what it is. If it's less than 150, I add 10 grand to it. Okay. And I assume that if I'm buying it for 120, I'm gonna have 10 grand in closing costs, and that probably includes settlement charge, title company, hard money, because I always buy with hard money, and then miscellaneous things. Then I look at the rehab, and let's say that I think it's a $25,000 rehab. Okay. I immediately add 5 grand to it.
Okay.
Because I've messed it up.
There's always the unknowns that pop up, right?
They always go longer and they always cost more.
Uh-huh.
So I underwrite that 25. So if I'm buying it for 120, I'll add my 10 for settlement. So I'm at 130. I'm at 25 for my rehab. Now I'm at 155 or 155. And then I look at what it's going to appraise for. This is what I think is really good advice, like for when you're analyzing refinance or BRRRR strategy properties. Mm-hmm. I like to start at the end. So if I know the property is going to appraise for 200 grand, and I know I can get 80%, but I always bank on 75.
Okay.
So 75% of 200 is going to be 150.
Okay.
What I like to do is back off the settlement charges of a refi, which are usually around 10 or 11 grand. I always use 10 grand to keep the numbers simple. So I take that 200, I take 75% of it, gets me to 150. I take off 10 grand, and I know that on a refi, I can get a loan for 150, but 10 of it's going to use in settlement charge. Mm-hmm. So I want to try to be all in for 140. So in the deal we're talking about, it would indicate if I'm all in for 155 with purchase and rehab, that I'm going to leave a couple bucks in that deal. Yeah. And that's where it becomes a game of like, how much do I like the neighborhood? What's the actual cash flow? How fast will I recover? Yeah. A lot of people don't do that math the same way, where it's like, okay, if I'm leaving 10 grand in a property, but I'm going to make $1,000 a month cash flow now, how fast is the payback? And that's obviously an easy one. But when you're like, hey, I'm leaving 20 grand in and I'm only going to make $400 a month, like, does that become a property that I want to keep? Okay. So how much am I leaving in the deal? How fast do I recover it? And I'll be honest, like, I don't think I'm very good at analyzing flips. I've done a handful of flips, and I have made 6 figures a couple times. Okay. And I have lost like 5 to 10 grand sometimes, and there is very, very little middle ground for me. Wow. Like, I think I got really lucky with COVID appreciation. Yes. Like in Perry Hall and Parkville. Yeah. And then I bought Cape Cods, which I cannot underwrite to save my life. I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy a Cape Cod. Agent, you might send me the comps, and I look at them, and like, I'll look at, let's say you send me 5 comps, and 4 of them are Cape Cods selling for 300. Yes. And one of them is not a Cape Cod and it's selling for 350. I'm like, we're getting 350 all day on this. When you are calculating, and you've already admitted that you're probably not as good as calculating with the flips as you are the rentals, but is there a difference in how you calculate that? Yes. Okay. Yes. So the first thing I do with a flip is I take the ARV and I multiply by 94%. Okay. So again, I like to work backwards. For me, I like to work backwards. So 94% of whatever it sells for is what I'm going to receive. Because you're going to agent commissions, you're going to split closing costs, all the things. From there, I try to estimate what my rehab is.
Okay.
So then I'll try to back off the rehab from that. And then I'll try to add in a profit number, which for me, like if I'm flipping something like 30, 40 grand is my target. Like I'm not trying to get rich. I've already told you I'm really bad at this. Maybe I should be trying to estimate more. Maybe I should juice that number, right?
Right.
But then I try to land at a purchase price that way.
Okay.
And then some I don't need to do that, right? Like if somebody sends me a single family in Dundalk and they say, hey, I need 100 grand or 125 or really anything under 140, I'm probably just buying it. And
yeah,
the best deals that you can buy as an investor will fit this mold. They work really well as a rental and really well as a flip. If you find a property where both exit strategies work, it's a great deal. Yeah, and you should be pushing forward full steam. I've been telling people for the last like 6 months, if you see a townhouse in Dundalk, like normal Dundalk, ABC Street, Stansbury, Havens, Berkshire, and it's 145 or less, you just need to sign a contract.
Okay.
You need to reach out and say, Tim, send me the contract. I'm ready to sign.
Yeah.
And if you think you get a little scared, call me. Like, my phone number's everywhere, and I'm sure I'll tell it at the end of this.
Yep,
but I'll either help you get through it, I'll lend you the money, or I'll take it off your hands and pay you $5 grand.
Okay.
And that's welcome to the game. Yeah.
Wow. Jeez. Wow. There's so many things I want to ask right now. Because, when my dad and I got into investing, he had just sold his business, came into some cash. We bought a house. Took our time with it, learned as much as we could, did really well, made about $30,000. Went to do the second house, we made $3,000. And so there was a lot of lessons, and that's when, one of the biggest lessons was, hey, if we can broker our own deals, we're going to at least save on the commission. And so we got our real estate licenses together, and then we haven't flipped a house since. I think my parents bought a few rentals, but for the most part, we just started helping other people buy and sell. But just thinking back to those times is like, how could I have better calculated? And there were some unforeseen things in the second one that, we didn't know. And that happens, and you learn, right? Yeah.
Hopefully you only have to have that happen once.
Right.
So, you're not repeating the same thing.
What's one of the biggest, most painful, I don't want to get too dramatic here, but mistakes that you've learned from in your 4 or 5 years experience?
The Cape Cod thing obviously is still it's painful, by the way. Like every time I look at a Cape Cod, I'm like, I'm not even looking at this. Like, so square footage is a big thing. When I first started underwriting deals, I would look in the same neighborhood, and in a lot of neighborhoods it's cookie cutter, right? They're 1024, they're 1650, but then when you get into zip codes like in Baltimore, like 21214,
okay.
So Hamilton, that area, for everyone that's not familiar, like I know zip codes like
oh sure, sure.
But what's really great about that is like you could have a house that's 900 square foot next to a house that's 4,000 square foot, and one's multifamily, one's single family, and underwriting comps is something that I think I was not good at in the beginning, and now I'm really good at it.
Okay,
so. You're familiar with Bright, the MLS system, of course. So when I look at comps in 21214, I use Baltimore on purpose because Baltimore is known as block by block, right?
Yeah,
I first start with the zip code, and in another tab on Google, I have like the actual address and a Zillow link, so I can see square footage, I can see the street view, I can see where it's at, right? Then I take my circle and I come in from the zip code, and I try to get like in between all major like streets, or if it was in Essex, I would be trying to be in between Mace Avenue and Eastern Boulevard, right?
Okay.
Because once you cross over Eastern Boulevard, you're now closer to water. Once you cross over Mace, you're now in townhouses. That's just that example. But in 21214, it's very similar.
Sure.
So I want to be in between Harford Road and maybe Northern Parkway, right? And I start to make that circle so small that I can get down to like 10 to 20 comps. And then I look at the square footage, like the GLA, gross living area or whatever.
Yep.
Because in the beginning, I was like, oh man, yes, they're both 3-bedroom houses, but 3 bedrooms in 1,000 square foot is very different than 3 bedrooms in a 2,000 square foot.
Sure.
And then I try to look at like the non-financial motivators. Like if I was going to buy a house in this neighborhood, Would I want the one that has the small yard or the big yard?
Sure.
Driveway, no driveway, things like that.
Yeah,
But underwriting comps was something I wasn't good at and was painful in the beginning, which hurt me on the refis in the beginning, because most of what I do is rentals. I've probably flipped maybe 20 since 2021, maybe more, maybe less. But most of what I do is rentals. But that hurt. The same premise still applies. My comp's got to be tight. I got to look at the same property, the same square footage, the same layout. But yeah, underwriting comps and square footage hurt me in the beginning. Like, and a lot of agents do fall victim to it. I think they're like, hey, my investors, when we're underwriting for hard money at Beltway, like, oh, my agent sent me comps. I'm like, oh God, here we go. Here we go. Let's see them. Send them over. Oh, 4,000 square foot. We're buying something that's 900.
Yeah, not a good comp. Hey, we're trying.
A lot of agents do a really good job. So
yes, yeah. But it is tough, and it's especially like I call on some of my professional appraiser people out in the field to say, what would you do in this situation? How would you adjust for this or that or the other? Just because there are cookie cutter ones, and like you said, there are ones that are completely just unique, and
they got 2 additions off the back. The roof is bumped out.
Yeah. And then on top of that, if you called in 3 appraisers, they could give you 3 totally different numbers based on what they
opinion of value.
Exactly. So it's as much of an educated opinion as possible, but it can be different.
Yeah, try to take the average of those 3, and hopefully it's
right. Just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by. Yeah. Yep. So you mentioned the MLS, and naturally as an investor, it would be great to be able to acquire properties before they hit the MLS, because then the competition opens up to a lot of people, right? How are you guys finding deals before they hit the MLS?
Do you remember how we met?
I do.
41 South Highland.
41 South Highland.
I saw it coming soon.
Yeah.
And I did everything I could to get you on the phone that night before it went live the next day.
Yeah.
And what I did is I strategically called you and said, hey, Tim, I don't even have anyone to represent me. Do you have someone in your office or something that can maybe help me? Or maybe you could save the client money, or maybe you could take both ends of the commission. I don't necessarily care.
Right.
My goal, so this is one way, like, if I see something coming soon, if I see something on the MLS, or let's just start with that, coming soon or active.
Okay.
I am calling that agent directly, and my only job at that point is to get that agent, you in that case, onto my team, right? Like, I want you helping. We gotta be on the same team. So, hey, Tim, I'm not bringing an agent. Like, can you also represent me and charge me and all that? Now, like, I just effectively took an agent and potentially doubled their paycheck. And if not, maybe I've saved that client money as well. Like, if they decide not to take both ends, it saves the net for the seller becomes higher. But that's been a really, really great strategy. I'd actually mention this all the time, but I've never actually had someone ask me who I did it with. So I did the same thing with you, and it works great.
Well, you still went on the market though.
It did. It did. Yep. And you got an offer that was better than mine, but the seller's net ended up being greater, I think. And
yeah, I mean, ultimately in my position, I'm looking out for the best interest of my seller, right? As much as you want to team with me as an agent, I'm looking out for their best interest, and sometimes it is in their best interest to just not, maybe they don't want people in and out of the house, there could be some kind of personal conflict there or something like that. Whatever.
Well, on that one specifically, I came in with no inspections, and I remember you calling me. You're like, "Hey, we have an offer that's a couple thousand more, but they want to do inspections. They want 45 days to close, and we're closing in 7 days.
Yeah,
like, I'm ready to roll."
So. So certainly a settlement date of as few days as possible and no inspections certainly helps.
We want the highest net. The
least amount of risk for us.
And the fastest closing.
That's awesome. Let's talk about Beltway Lending. So you recently opened that. What was that? A year or two ago?
July of 2022.
July of 2022.
Coming up on 3 years.
And it was just the two of you originally, and now you've grown into 21, 22 people.
Yep.
Talk about that. How has that? What kind of challenges? What kind of wins have you had with that?
Challenges are great. So one thing that I've managed people like at different jobs, at the other hard money business, at Northrop Grumman, which is where I was an Excel financial analyst, and then at the pawn shop, I managed other people. But I never was like the guy that had to make the decision, right? Like, I was never the guy that like had to deal with personality and potentially fire people and hiring. Like that was, if I ever had to fire someone, my boss came to me and was like, hey, I need you to let this person go. And I could go to them and be like, Tim, I'm sorry, I got to let you go. Your father told me to fire you, like, right. But,
that wouldn't be unheard of.
But now, like, the challenge is like, as I was growing up, I'm learning too. I mean, we're all learning,
sure.
As we hire more people, like so Ross is my partner on Beltway. And one thing Ross has done an exceptional job of is like culture in that building. And I think I have a role in it as well, but Ross has done a really great job of making sure like, okay, well, Melissa is she's like one of our operations managers, and she's incredible, right? And like she was a processor, and I said to Ross and Tim, who's like our sales director, I was like, Melissa is going to be an incredible operations manager. Like I can see it. I see the personality types very similar to me. It's going to be great. And everybody was like, okay, yeah, like she's never managed me before. And then we moved her into that role and she's killed it.
Killing it.
And then when we started to hire out processors, the first thing Ross said is like, okay, well, we know how Melissa operates. So when we're looking at people, not only do we want to hit these qualifications, these requirements, we also want to make sure that personality types match and that our culture is going to be good. We want people to want to show up to work, So I pay my team exceptionally well, and I'm very, very like proud about that. I'm here for that. Like, yeah, I want adults where I hire adults, man. I want you to show up, know what you need to do, and get it done. And we make it pretty clear, like everyone knows what my job is. But as you grow, like when we were at 18 employees, I think I said to Ross, I was like, no more. I can't do any more personalities. We need no more people.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we actually do need something to keep it moving. Ross made this analogy. So when Beltway started, like I said, the intention was just maybe one employee will do a couple million in loans, and it'll just be a paycheck for me and for Ross.
Yeah.
And I did a loan for Aaron Alberti and for Nico Antavero, two pretty big investors in our local space. And when it's just me working, like I did those loans in like 13 or 14 days. Insane. I don't know if we've ever done one that fast since.
Okay.
But both of them called me and they're like, do you want this to grow? And this was in September of 22. I was like, yeah, I guess I could take on some clients. Well, by October 15th, I had a like $14 million pipeline. And Ross came to me and he said something that's like stuck with me ever since. He's like, you're the only person standing at a lemonade stand right now. And we got a line wrapped around the corner. You need to hire people to help you give out the lemonade. And like, I wasn't ready for that. Like, that's something that I never imagined that we would have processors and managers and a hierarchy of people. And I was like, okay. And then like in the beginning, I remember saying like when we first brought Lily in, she was our first employee. I was thinking in my head, like, I was like, well, we need to create a separate account right now, a separate bank account where we have like a years of her salary just set aside. I was like, I feel personally responsible for these people.
Right.
It's the first time I'd ever had to deal with that. So, but yeah, learning to manage people and grow with personalities and grow with the team has been really crazy.
What kind of resources or mentors do you have behind the scenes that's helping you guide your business decisions?
So two guys that have been there for me since I was in the pawn shop days. There's a guy named Warren who used to own the pawn shop. He actually sold it recently. And then there's a guy named Matt Lerner who owns Frederick Coin Exchange. So obviously both kind of industry specific. But Matt has had 40 to 50 employees I used to be one of them. I worked for him a little bit, and he's always been there for me. He's a really great guy, really great resource. And I remember calling him the first time I had to fire somebody. And I said to him, I was like, man, like, how do I do this? What do I do here?
Yeah.
He's like, you have to, he's like, you can't drag it out. You can't lead people on, and it's not for your benefit. It's for their benefit. He's like, you can't make people think that it's going to work out when it's not. And like, he's like, he said something that is true. Like, firing someone is worse than losing a relative in some cases. Like, my Beltway team is tight-knit. So, fortunately, we've only had to fire a couple people in its existence.
Right.
And trying to get that culture right.
But you have to save the culture.
Protect the culture at all costs.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's it. A couple guys from my background that have always been weighing in and helping me move to the next level.
So let's talk about the next level. Where is all this going? What's the vision for you? What's the vision for Beltway Lending? What is enough? What is not enough? That's a struggle that I face on a daily basis. Like, how big do I really want to make this, or do I need to keep it manageable?
Yep. 21 employees is enough.
The next time we talk, you'll probably be up to 30.
So Beltway has really three brands, if you will. So Beltway Lending is the one that that's the name that everybody's so familiar with. We do investor refis and investor hard money, stuff like that. And it's just an assembly line. It's a monster. It takes input. It's a very assembly line based. We put a loan in the process, in the funnel, if you will. The processors take over. Then the sales team comes back in, and the processors. So that my day right now has maybe 1 to 2 hours dedicated to Beltway Lending, and that's maybe just putting out fires that the team can't figure out, or things that pop up, or content, things like that. The next brand is Beltway Assets, which we have some involvement with a lot of local people. I think one of your relatives, your father.
Yeah.
And
who does happen to be in the room right now?
Just sitting here
sneaking
listening.
behind. Yeah, just sitting there chilling out.
So that we work with local family and friends, and we wanted to make hard money more accessible to people. So we raise money and then we lend it personally as well, in addition to using like a bank line that we have. And we like that. It gives good diversity. It gives more flexibility when someone comes to us and they're like, hey, I need to close tomorrow. Like my other lender backed out. Like I don't have to wait I can underwrite it all in-house the same day.
Okay.
And then the last brand, which is newer, is Beltway Mortgage. And that is strictly focusing on homeowner loans, USDA, conventional FHA, like VA, all that gambit. So each one has its own like growth and its own goals for me.
Okay.
Beltway Lending, our investor refi shop, our pipeline right now is 24 million active rotating. Our goal is to try to get that closer to 30, which is for our size crazy. Like the size, for 21 employees, that's very large. The hard money brand that we lend internally, we always want to raise more money and try to work with newer investors. But the most opportunity for us right now is Beltway Mortgage, which is where we're starting to connect with more agents, and we're starting to open houses with agents and I'm trying to add value to agents in ways that is not just financial. Because I'm sure you've seen it. Agents come to you as a mortgage company like, hey, can we split can we split my Zillow leads, right? Well, we have I have an in-house marketing guy, like content guy, who's incredible. Like the shorts, the videos he can make is insane. So I'm like, hey, our value prop is maybe different. I can bring things to you. We also bring clients. I'm working with investors all day that are flipping houses. Like I could probably shift some listings around and things like that.
Yeah.
That
and you're also sponsoring like different networking events too. I've seen a lot more of that from you as well. Yeah.
A lot more local ones. Usually the ones we end up with are like Owings Mills and Towson. But I live in Harford County. I'm trying to be able to drive 5 minutes and be home.
Right. In talking with somebody that is thinking about getting into investing, what would be the 3 or 4 big tips that you would encourage them to think about, but ultimately make the jump to actually take action and make it happen?
Yeah, this is like one of my favorite things to do. Like personally, I prefer to talk to people that have 0 to 5 rentals. Because that's where I think I can add the most value. Okay. So the first thing that I would say is very important is you got to network. And I'm going to really drill that down for you. So every area, every city, every county, every state has a Facebook group. I know because I'm in more than like 400 of them across the country. And it's all hyper local. So in Maryland, there's the Maryland Investor Network. And I learned more from that in the beginning of my career than anywhere. You can ask, there's people that are willing to really just pour into you if you're willing to listen. You have to be willing to listen. Not just, you have to listen to hear, to understand, not to reply.
Yep.
But you got to network. So a Facebook group is a good place. Just start reading, see what's going on. Also, staying with networking, there's a lot of events like you mentioned. So I think right now my team is at 3 events per month. For investors only. And that's not even on the homeowner side. So the Everyday Millionaire company always puts on one at CVP. It's like once a quarter. Maryland Investor Network itself hosts events. Actually, I was at one last night. Diana Kahn is an attorney. She hosts a lot of events.
She's been on the podcast.
She's hosting one coming up that I think is going to be really great. Wealth and Wisdom. It's June 10th. It's really great. Little plug for Diana there.
There you go.
Unintentional. But you gotta, and even if you're an introvert, because this is where introverts are going to struggle.
Yep.
You got to talk to people.
Yeah.
You got to go. You can't just go to those events and listen. You got to talk to people, and you just got to ask them what they do. And this industry, real estate investing, is different than most industries. If you were in the plumbing world and you went to lend the plumber and you work for anyone else, and you're like, hey, how do you guys fix this? They're going to be like, oh, just hire us and we'll come do it.
Right.
In the investing world, if you show up to these events and you shake hands, you're like, hey, what do you do? And oh, well, personally, I'm Brian and I'm just getting started. I don't own any rentals, but I'm trying to like make some connections. Like, people will listen to you and they will add value to you. At those events, you'll meet wholesalers, people that can bring you properties. You'll meet title companies. You'll meet agents, other investors. And I think that's like really valuable. The second thing I would do after networking, which is, by the way, not something you do once and stop. It's kind of like you got to be committed.
You have to stay committed to it. Absolutely.
You also got to try to go to different areas, because if you go to just the same events, you're going to always see the same people. So you want to try to mix it up, meet other people. But the next thing I would do is pick an area that you know, or that you think you know, or that you want to invest in. For me, it was Dundalk, so let's use Dundalk. And start learning about Dundalk. Right? There's going to be agents that do a lot of business in Dundalk, and maybe you can find that information out. So reach out to them and say, hey, like, I'm looking to get started, like, whatever. Get in their contacts, like, touch base with them. Agents are always looking for new buyers, so it'll work out well. And then find auctions in that zip code. And you're not going to buy them. You're just going to watch.
Yeah.
So go to the auction and just stand there and listen. And let's say there's 3 auctions in the ABC streets of Dundalk, and you go to one and you watch people bid, and it goes for 160. And then you go to another one a couple days later and you watch people bid, and it sells for 155. And then a third one, it sells for 160. You've now seen 3 auctions with 3 different people, most likely, and probably 50 people in the crowd, by the way.
Yeah.
But someone paid 155, someone paid 160, and someone paid 165. What this is going to do is it's slowly going to lower that tolerance you have, or that distress tolerance, if you will, right? So then when someone calls you and says, hey, I got one right next door, or I got one in the same neighborhood, and I only need to get 140 for it, you're thinking, well, I watched 3 seasoned investors who were willing to bid at an auction. Yeah. Which there's a lot of unknowns. Sometimes you can't even go in those properties. Pay 150 to 165, and now I can buy this for 140. It starts to make you a little bit more comfortable with the numbers and kind of understanding it. Third, I would talk to a lender. It's going to make you real dangerous. Like, once you've done your research, the neighborhood, any lender will pre-approve you. Specifically, you're not looking for a retail homeowner mortgage company. You're looking for somebody like Beltway. There's a lot of companies out there. It doesn't have to be Beltway. We're happy to help. But a lot of places that do hard money loans or do DSCR refis, those are the people you want to talk to. And they'll pre-approve you. And usually what that process looks like is different than the homeowner side. They're going to soft pull your credit, so it's not going to hurt you. They're going to want to see cash in the bank. Make sure you have that down payment. As long as you have that, they will pre-approve you and write proof of funds letters for you. And then I think the last step is offering. You just gotta go all in, make an offer, and
you gotta take it.
If you're really nervous in the beginning about making an offer, give yourself a 7-day inspection window. So make the offer and give yourself 7 days to actually run a home inspector through there. Because in the beginning, I didn't know anything about renovating. Like, I didn't know what I was looking for. Federal Pacific electrical panels are literally a fire hazard that insurance won't cover.
Right.
I think I bought 2 houses with them in there in the first 6 months.
Wow.
Now I walk in there and I'm like, $1,800 to replace that.
Okay. Right. Like, yeah.
But no, like, that's I think that's a good timeline. Plus, your lender can then give you a proof of funds that you can give to your agent who's writing offers, and then your offer has a lot of weight. It's great.
Awesome. If you were to recommend a book, a podcast, influencer, not necessarily the mentors, you talked about the mentors, what are you taking in right now that's really helping you grow as a person and as a business person?
I do read a good bit.
Okay.
I've read one
Thank
book.
God. You know what? For the first time in a long time, we actually have somebody that reads on this. Every time I ask this questions, I don't read. I don't have time to read. I'm always on the go, which makes sense. I get it. I'm not judging. but it's nice to know that I have a fellow reader here.
I think it's important. And I've read a lot of books. Like, obviously, there's a lot of sales books that are always going to benefit you. I've read one book maybe 5 times, and I give this book to a lot of people.
Okay.
Because I think if I would have read this book when I was in high school, it would have reshaped the way I speak, the way I talk, and the way I listen. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
I mean, that book, I blame that book like for single-handedly changing the way I speak and listen. And, it's in every mannerism that I do. So when you hear me say, like, Tim, this is a really great podcast, like, I'm making eye contact, I'm smiling, and I said Tim. Like, yeah. I do those things subconsciously now. And honestly, it helps. It's great. Like, I think understanding how to talk to people serves everything. It's
awesome. I want to acknowledge you, because I've seen this growth over such a short period of time, of which I thought it was a lot longer. But since I've met you, you are a man of character. You're a stand-up guy. You tell that you have ethics and values within yourself, and you've taken something and you've just ran with it, man. I mean, it's awesome to see people that grow in their journeys, and you want to try to support them as much as possible. My parents believe in you, that they have become investors, through hard money and stuff like that. And, you just, you got great character, man. And it just shows through and through. And I love seeing what you're doing out there, and, just amazing. So, to acknowledge you for that is an honor. My question to you would be, is if you could acknowledge one person that has significantly made a difference in your life outside of the immediate family, because a lot of people automatically go to mom and dad. Who's one person that you would want to acknowledge?
It's a good question, because I shift between like the mentors that I have, because obviously they shape everything. And then I have a woman that works for me. That's who I'm going to acknowledge. So her name's Lily Thomas.
Okay.
And I met her. She actually was best friends with my wife. They worked together at a previous job, and then she got a job at Hopkins or something like that. And when I went to work for that hard money company in the past, I brought her with me. I was like, I need a right hand. Like, I think she's on it, right? She is on it. And then I brought her to Beltway, and Lily has evolved to much more than just an employee for us. She knows the way that she supports Beltway, the rentals, like everything that I need. Like, she has been the sounding board, outside of family, right? Like, obviously I have my wife and all that, but I have Lily at work. So when, and I have after hours too, I text her. I'm like, oh, what do you think about this? Right? We get a hard money deal that comes through. And what is really great is that not a lot of employees, and I'm sure you run into this, people that work for you will not always come to you and say, Tim, I don't think this is right. Because you're their boss. And at some level, like, they know that it rolls up the chain. That is not the case with Lily. She will come to me and she will tell me, this is not a good decision. We are not doing this. And she's one of those like 2 or 3 people in my life that if she says that to me, I'm like, okay, we're not doing this.
It's important to have that inner circle.
She has kept me on track. She's kept Beltway on track. She's facilitated growth in ways. She's learned everything I've thrown at her. And truly, like, Beltway wouldn't be where it's at without like her at my right hand.
Wow. Did you hear that? Lily, right?
She's not available for hire, in case anybody's wondering.
Yeah. I tout Drew all the time, who's my video producer, and there's people out there that want to try to take him. It's like, come on, man, leave him alone. I'll share, but don't take him. Yep. Come on, man.
Oh, everybody knows too. I mean, I'll get. I mentioned a guy Nico earlier. He'll call me and be like, "So, can I reach out to Lily and ask her to form an LLC for me?" And I'm like, "Go ahead, throw her a gift card somewhere."
Yeah, right. All right. If people want to reach out to you, find out more information about investing, all 3 branches of Beltway, how can people connect with you?
You can call me. My phone number is 443-845-2273. I would text first because I get a lot of spam. You see my phone.
Oh, my lordy.
But then my email is brian@beltwaylending.com. And the only thing I ask to make sure that it doesn't hit any spam filters is if you email me, just put in the subject line podcast. and that'll make sure that like gets ticked to the top of my inbox so that I never miss those.
Gotcha.
But I also have my website, beltwaylending.com. I have over 160 Google reviews, and I have nothing less than 5 stars.
Yeah.
We crush it. My team is very customer focused, and it shows in those Google reviews. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I'm always in the building Monday through Friday. I'm there hanging out with the team usually and having fun. So
that's cool, man. Awesome. Thank you for taking the time to come in today. Love what you're doing, and just keep on grinding, baby.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Hey, look, if you haven't followed us yet and you like this episode, please share it out. Please subscribe to our channels, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube at the Markland Advantage. And let's keep this train going and getting the good word out. Until next time, folks, live your life to the fullest, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Did you like this episode of the TMA Connection? Well, you might want to check this one out right here. Go ahead. Click it. Go ahead.